Good afternoon. 35 years ago, Chancellor David Boyd founded Taft Law School. He struggled, but he got it registered with the state bar. He wasn't sure that was going to ever happen, but he was persistent. He believed that legal education should not be just for the rich or the powerful or the well-to-do. He wanted to establish a school for the working people. A school that would serve the needs for people who were challenged by geography, mobility, work commitments, and finances, quite frankly. It was a place where work and study were more important than sitting in a classroom. He didn't know if it would work. The first few years were rocky, quite frankly. But over time, the hard work paid off, and our graduates started taking the bar and passing the bar, and the reputation just grew from there. David Boyd's dedication and the success of those early graduates have laid the foundation for the success that we are celebrating today. There are certain debts that can never be repaid in this lifetime. Many of us in this room owe a huge debt of gratitude to David Boyd and his vision and his fortitude and his dedication to legal education. Another key to the success of Taft Law School has been the dedicated team of professionals that Chancellor Boyd was able to put together. Chancellor Boyd wasn't able to be here with us today, but I'd like to point out a couple of the people that really have contributed to the success over the last 35 years. The first person I'd like to acknowledge is Joan Slavin. Joan, please stand up. Joan is probably the most familiar voice for our Taft graduates. She was probably the first person that you talked to when you first called Taft Law School. And what you probably don't know is she has been a tireless advocate for your success every step of the way. There has never been a time when Joan is too busy to take a student call or to do whatever was necessary to make sure that there was the best possible outcome for each of our law students. Taft is infinitely better because Joan is so good at her job and so dedicated to our students. And I'd just like to say thank you, Joan. The other person I'd like to recognize is Christine Baldwin. Christine is our registrar, our director of administration, and essentially just the major domo. Chris, stand up again. Ms. Baldwin is the glue that holds Taft together. Whenever there's a job to be done and there aren't enough hands to do it, somehow Chris grows another pair of hands and gets the job done. You know, she's smart, she's hardworking, and yet amazingly humble. Chris is just a truly special person, and again, we appreciate all of the years of service. The graduation this year was a team effort. I want to thank everybody who had a hand in putting it together. But I would especially like to thank Chris for her tireless effort and her late nights and her typing up everything over and over and over and making everything come together. So Chris, again, thank you. Between Chris and Joan, I think they have about 60 years of experience at Taft. They came to Taft right out of junior high school. So they're celebrating, I think, age 35 for the second or third time. But I've been associated with Taft for over 20 years. And in all those years, there has never been a time when Joan Slavin and Christine Baldwin weren't helping Dave push Taft to be the very best school it could possibly be. Please help me thank David Boyd, Joan Slavin, and Christine Baldwin for their truly decades of service to Taft Law School and the graduates today. And now it's my pleasure to invite Neil Johnson to the stage to talk about William Howard Taft University.
You can tell who was here last. I keep trying to tell them, don't put me behind a podium for obvious reasons, but they still do. Anyway, I want to welcome all of you, just like all my predecessors before me welcomed you. But most importantly, I want to say that, give you just a little bit of status report on William Howard Taft University. This past year, as you know, we went through reaccreditation. We had some challenges there, not because of our performance as a school, but rather because of regulatory issues that were beyond our control. But we are, I would like to announce, officially reaccredited for the next 5 years. And incidentally, that's the Taft University system, the law school and the university.
It is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Mark Swadek. Mark is a board-certified legal specialist in estate planning, trust, and probate law under the State Bar of California. He is also a legal specialist in those fields, a distinction that only 1% of California attorneys hold. Mark was voted the best estate planning, trust, and probate attorney in South Bay's Best of the Beach. Mr. Swadek started with Taft Law School in 2004 and was awarded the 10th Annual National Law Enforcement Law School Scholarship, which helped him get through Taft Law School. He graduated in 2009. He is currently a partner in the law firm of Berkeley, Brandon, Swadek, and Kesey. And as I believe Mark will explain in his talk, he was a police officer when he came to Taft, and he was looking to make a career change. Taft gave him that opportunity, and he has gone on to having an outstanding attorney, become an outstanding attorney, and make that career change. He is one of my favorite people because whenever we have applicants who say, well, are you really a law school, or are you just operating out of somebody's garage? We refer him to Mark to set the people straight. I mean, who wouldn't believe an ex-police officer? So without further ado, I present Mark Swadek.
All right, everyone. Well, I am living proof here that Taft University and Taft Law School work exceptionally well, and it's an honor to be here. I was chosen, actually, to speak to you today because apparently Robert F. Smith, if you've heard of him, who some of you may recognize as the exceptional individual who gave a graduation commencement speech earlier this year and then proceeded to pay off all student loans for each of the students. Remember that? Remarkable. Well, we tried, but we couldn't get him here today. And I'm sorry to say, although he wasn't available, and despite my best efforts, I will not be able to pay off each of your student loans. Nevertheless, we come here together today as family, friends, faculty, distinguished guests, and alumni to honor the 2018 and 2019 graduates of Taft Law School and, thank you, Taft University. Now look at all of those smiling faces. I can see those graduates amongst the crowd. Now that's only a smile that graduating from law school, business school, and the School of Education can bring out in a person. This certainly was an endurance test, wasn't it? Well, you've made it. And now family and friends, when the time arrives to take that photo of your graduate in their cap and gown, the word to evoke the biggest smile today will be analysis. Remember that? Say analysis out loud, that'll evoke a big smile. So while this milestone is certainly worth celebrating, remember, it's a school day tomorrow, isn't it? No, it shouldn't be, right? We're over this hurdle. But it is a work day tomorrow, so thank you to Christine Baldwin for organizing this on a Thursday. Ideally, we can applaud her efforts and avoid any hangovers or headaches the next day. Now, speaking of celebrating, an interesting story. I had another student during my bar review prep course tell me, and this was not a Taft student, by the way, that his idea of celebrating this ceremony would be a book burning session of all of his law books in his own backyard. Probably not the best idea. And while I fully expect each of you to find your own appropriate manner of celebrating this momentous event, I would ask that in doing so, you take into account the family and friends who traveled along this journey with you, because without their help and support, this day may not have ever arrived. For me, it was my mother who championed my endeavors to work through college, business graduate school, and law school, like all of you, working full-time. But she contracted cancer in my 4th year of law school, and she insisted that her illness not interfere with her hopes of her son one day becoming an attorney. She made me promise her that I would sit for the bar exam, and unfortunately, as fate would have it, she passed away shortly before I took the test. Well, on May 14th, I received those results that I had passed the bar. And you can imagine, there was certainly cause for elation, but for me, most importantly, it was more symbolic, because May 14th happened to be my mother's birthday. It was remarkable, and I remember thinking that this would have made her so proud, especially after everything we had been through as a family. I said, "Happy birthday, Mom." And I remember saying this to myself, and I recognize that everyone in this room at this point has at least one story to share with how we had to collectively overcome adversity in order to sit here today. Well, the good news is we all did everything necessary to graduate. So congratulations. You've certainly earned it. So to all of you who have supported your graduates, please recognize that this celebration is just as much for each of you as it is for them. Now, when our very own Joan Slavin asked me to deliver the commencement speech at this year's graduation ceremony, one concept came to mind immediately, and that was privilege. And I'd like to leave you with that term, privilege, because it took me back to 2004 in receiving the scholarship from Taft University and how honored I was. More importantly, I've had, as Dr. Strauss has mentioned, the ability to speak to over 24 prospective students, and I will always do so in explaining why I'm so proud of our system and why it works so efficiently. Now, the privilege of speaking to you today also gives me a chance, as a regular person, to convey something that's purposeful and relatable to you, because in actuality, my accomplishments are not unique, and I'm certainly not special. Anything that I have achieved in my lifetime has been the direct result of exceptional mentoring. I was fortunate enough to have a Superior Court judge, James Branlin, now retired, also a police officer who went to law school, became a deputy district attorney, and was later elevated to the bench, an individual nice enough to take me under his wing when I was working as a police detective. What an exceptional man. Now, I share this story with you because mentorship is a two-way street. And if you want to succeed, you'll need to seek out the right people and prove to them that you are worthy of having them help you guide through life and a career. Without their help, it's very difficult to succeed. What was instilled in me is that mentorship is a two-way street because you must pay it forward. Your mentors, like mine, required me to pay back and help mentor other individuals. So I want you thinking about that as you advance into the next stage of your life. Remember this, we used to dream about going to law school, business school, or the School of Education. We started these programs then dreaming about getting to this point in your lives, reaching graduation. And you'll continue to dream as to where this path will now take you, but you need to think about carving out necessary time to help someone else make their goals become a reality. Now, most of us entered into these programs with the primary objective of either a career change or career enhancement. As Dr. Strauss mentioned, certainly my objective. Some of you just sat for the California bar examination. Are there any hands I can see? Not presently? Fine. Oh, we have one. Excellent, sir. Good for you. Well, no surprise that Dr. Google has classified the California bar examination as one of the toughest professional examinations in the world. Alexa, can you confirm that for me? Anyone? Well, hashtag no doubt, as we can attest. So here's a parallel that resonated with me, and another parallel here with Dr. Cassard. And perhaps this will have the same impact upon you, because I'd like you to consider that passing the bar examination is like earning a black belt in martial arts. Upon attaining a black belt, the student feels that they've attained the highest level of accomplishment in that discipline. They've reached the top of the mountain and they can say that they finally made it. But the instructor handing the black belt to the student informs them that they've now started over from the very beginning. Initially, that seems counterintuitive. You'd say to yourself, don't I get to stand along top of the mountain along with you? But you quickly realize the significance of that message, and that although you've dedicated tireless effort to attain this goal, and while you may wear the same color belt as the instructor, you're not their equal. They've worn that black belt for far longer than you've been a practitioner. So remember, in moving forward out there, there are different levels of black belts, just like there are different levels of experience amongst legal and business professionals. But this will help you moving forward, remaining humble and always striving to improve yourself. So deciding what to do with your degree can be interesting, but yet formidable as far as questions go. People naturally expected me to gravitate towards the district attorney's office, which made sense after a long police career. But like many of you, I was ready to change direction and move in a new direction regarding challenges and opportunity. But I can share with you that I wasn't exactly sure where I was going and what I wanted to do after immediately passing the bar exam. So after 6 months of employment, law, and civil defense, a terrible tragedy occurred, and the city in which I worked lost the first police officer in the line of duty in the history of the entire department. It changed the landscape as we knew it. And this officer, Andrew Garden, was survived by a wife and 2 very young children. They had no estate planning in effect. And this inspired me to begin educating first responders, police officers, firefighters, of the importance of estate planning. Because interestingly enough, we had all voluntarily signed up for a profession that had a higher mortality rate than most other jobs. So creating legal documents for people, protecting them, their families, assets, and the next generation was a natural transition for me. So graduates, embrace the fact that you may need some time to figure out where you're going and what you'd like to do. It may not happen overnight, but I'm here to share with you that once it does happen, it's an exciting and challenging new world. So let's wrap this up. We have, obviously, a celebration to begin, and I want you thinking, most importantly, that the world as we know it is changing at an exponential rate. But your degree that you've worked very hard for is going to help you manage those changes and adapt to them. I'd like you to embrace them and prosper from them. Represent yourselves in Taft University in the best manner possible. Take the time to mentor others and make a positive change in someone else's life. So while I can't obviously pay off your student loans, I'm hopeful that this message has made a positive impression. My hope is that one day, one of you graduates has the privilege of standing up here and sharing your story with our future graduates. And you'll have something to share that's memorable with them in recognition of mentorship. And most importantly, please remember to pay it forward. Thank you.
We have one more graduate that I want to talk about. And I want you to listen carefully. The next graduate is a farm boy from Pennsylvania. He graduated from high school and enlisted in the Marine Corps at age 17. He was assigned to the USS Princeton, the USS Tarawa, and the USS Boxer under the command of Admiral Frederick McMahon. If you're doing the math on that, the history on that, folks, we're talking about World War II. After the Marine Corps service, he returned home and married his high school sweetheart. They spent 70 lovable years together. She recently passed away. In 1951, he graduated from Allegheny College with a BA in business. Keep track of the years here. In 1973, he graduated from the University of Chicago with an MBA in economics. He then had a 30-year business career in the steel industry, culminating as president of his own steel mold company. He told me when he enrolled in Taft University that he had become lost in life when he lost his wife of 70 years. And so he didn't know what to do. He was floundering. So he decided to go back to school. And he picked us. In the process, he had some health problems. And he called me one day when it was time for him to take his comp exam, his comprehensive exam for his Doctor of Business Administration. He's supposed to take the exam over all of his subjects. And he says, I can't do this. I can't type. He'd had a stroke. So I said, okay, I'll give you an oral exam, an oral comprehensive exam. And I was being a little ornery that day, I guess, when I gave him the exam, because I thought maybe he's pulling my leg about whether he can type or not, and he's trying to get the easy way out. So I asked him the hardest question first. I said, since you're from the steel industry and you're taking a comp exam, do a Porter's 5 forces analysis of the steel industry. Take a few minutes and jot down the notes. Now you business folks know what the Porter's 5 forces analysis is. He didn't jot down anything. He told me, snap, 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 like that. He listed all the 5 forces. He listed all the key people, all the decisions, everything from his head, from his memory. Well, by the way, I forgot to mention, he's 92 years old. So I'd like to introduce to you, I'm hoping we can get him up on the screen here. He's sitting at home in Fort Myers, Florida. And this is Jim Lewis.
Hi, Jim. Hi, I'm on this end. We got a little bit of scenery problem here.
Well, we welcome you, Jim.
Well, I certainly appreciated my experience at Taft University. Taft provided the challenge and the time-consuming. I've always been a very busy person from the time I was 8 years old, when my grandfather told me that I was old enough at 8 years old to earn my keep. And I found out that I went to work shortly after that, doing whatever an 8-year-old could do. But that lasted all the way through my career, and I married my high school sweetheart We were married for 67 years. I got to a point where I just ran out of things to do. My hands were empty. And I looked around for something to do, and I started to look at different colleges, and I came upon Taft University, and I thought, well, I'll give them a try, and I called the first person I talked to was Eileen Padden. She was a receptionist, and I asked her a multitude of questions, and finally she said, I think you better talk to Dr. Johnson. So she switched me over to Dr. Johnson. That's where we first met. And but I go through the years, all the people at Taft University were very helpful. Dr. Johnson and Eileen Padden and Stephanie Eslow, the professors, everybody was just wonderful. And I enjoyed it immensely. It gave me a new lease on life. I had a focus, something to do, and it occupied my time. And actually, I think it made me about 30 years younger. So with that, I want to express my appreciation and thanks to you, Dr. Johnson, and to the staff at Taft, and to the professors and so forth that put up with me through the process. It's been very enjoyable, and I thank you very much. And I remember Taft University for the rest of my days.
Good.
Thank you for everything, Dr. Johnson, for your help and support. Thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome, Jim.